The 2020 fallow deer rut kicked my butt, to put it bluntly. I stupidly believed I would be able to hunt it pretty well the same as what I would have with a rifle, but just make an effort to get closer because it was my first hunt with the stickbow. Because in previous years, I'd wake up reasonably early, I'd hear all the croaking going on, I'd get to some fringe country and observe dozens of deer out in the open, and then decide which one I felt like following up into their bedding area and then get it done. Whereas this rut, there was so much more feed around, the deer had been spread far and wide, and all the action I had was in the thick stuff. So I hardly even got eyes on a deer besides the ones I rattled in, and even then they were blind rattles, based on just hearing a bit of croaking in some spots or having a guess at where some bucks might be. This video is essentially the highlights that I had over, I guess, maybe 3 weekends leading up to the rut and the early rut, and then maybe a week or a week and a half straight of hunting. I wasn't successful, but I had a hell of a good time. There'd probably be a lot of people who would kill to have the opportunities that I did have, even though they were nowhere near as good as I was hoping they would be. And I hope that I have learned enough and done the hard yards enough that I should be able to make it happen next year with the recurve bow. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Cheers. This property produced well for me early in the rut last year, so I came out here maybe a week or two before the rut was in full swing, just to get an idea about the activity, see how much sign there was, see if there were many deer around. You can see here just how much feed there was around. And if you look at what it looked like about this time last year, very big difference. So it's no wonder the deer were hard to find. I always like to practice my shots in the middle of the day, listen to some podcasts, drink some coffee. I think this podcast here was Kifaru Cast.
Everything, working out, sharpening broadheads, learning to sharpen broadheads, fletching arrows, tuning, shooting, fitness, studying. It's in a bad way, like I've ruined relationships. Only thing good.
I went out for another look in the afternoon. I came across a couple of snakes, which is always cool to see. Found some good signs, some good scrapes, but didn't really come across any deer worth considering. So while I had a good weekend, I wasn't real productive. One of the best moments of my hunting career happened in this gully. My partner and I rattled up a really good buck together last year, but there wasn't much around on this afternoon. So the next bit of footage is, I believe, the weekend after, and I was at my main deer hunting property, and as you can see, the weather was very ordinary at the start of this hunt. I decided to have a bit of a rattle just to see if anything might come in, because I couldn't hear any croaking as a result of the wind, and this little buck came in. I'm no expert, but to me, it looked like his antlers had been stunted by a lack of feed in the drought. And I've since seen some pictures of other bucks that look similar to him at this time of year, so maybe that's the cause of his antlers, I'm not sure. Still exciting nonetheless. Scrape's been used this morning. Weather's terrible, so I'm gonna go cut some firewood and go back to the car and dry out a bunch of my clothes and get ready to have a proper hunt when the weather blows over this afternoon. I left out a lot of the footage, but I actually went out twice on this morning and got rained on both times, so I had to dry out a couple of different sets of clothes. Again, practice, always fun. So I headed out that afternoon fairly optimistic. The weather had obviously cleared up. And as you'll see here, I did get a bit of action, but I couldn't quite close the deal. Being so early in the rut and having plenty of time, that spiker was pretty safe. I heard something behind me, which is why I was looking that way when he first came in. I'm dirty at myself. If I'd have seen him coming earlier, I might have been able to hold him up right in front of me. It wasn't a bad buck. A wonderful encounter, even though it was frustrating. I dried out my socks and watched that footage probably a half a dozen times next to the campfire. Ah well, I'll still have plenty of time. So the weekend before was promising. I was encouraged. And this here is my first morning of probably about a week straight of hunting when the rut was in full swing. And I could hear a buck down in that thick, gorgy stuff. So I followed him up for probably about 2 or 3 hours. You can see that's where I started, up there. I walked all the way down here, didn't even get a chance to see old mate. Now I've just walked
up out of this stuff. I've got a rough idea where I am. If I keep going this way, I should figure it out, I suppose. Would have loved to have gotten a look at him. Anyway.
The next week or so pretty well played out exactly the same as that. This property is normally just a cacophony of activity, but with all the feed and the deer being spread out, it just wasn't the case. So it was very hard going. I did lots of walking, and here you'll see a couple of opportunities that I had that were still really close and I really enjoyed. I just couldn't make it happen. This footage here really sets the tone for what I experienced over the next week. I was right in the thick stuff, as you can see. I walked to where I thought I was maybe within about 100 or 200 meters of some croaks that I was hearing. I propped myself up in a pretty good spot and let out some rattles just to see what would happen. I guess you could say at least this one stopped. In any case, a cool encounter, lots of fun, and really very close to making it happen. This section of footage is, I believe, the last morning I was hunting. It played out the same as all the others. I was hearing a bit of activity here and there. I walked around until I found a spot that I thought would give me a good vantage point. Let out some rattles and hoped for the best. I'd hunted all around these granite ridges before, but I'd never really spent time up on top. So I was second guessing myself a lot and lacking confidence. You can see a thick patch of pine under the sun here where I was hoping this buck would come from, because that's where I believed I could hear him. And he comes out just to the right of the screen here. I was really hoping he was going to come out in front of me and follow the contour that way, but he ended up coming behind me and it buggered me. He obviously caught some movement. He might have even seen the reflection come off my GoPro, but I couldn't let him walk behind me like that because he would have smelled me anyway. But yeah, obviously an absolutely stunning buck. That was the closest I got to a really good one. The mountains are just kicking my butt at the moment. This year I'm hearing intermittent croaks all over the place. It's a long way between bucks. It's a difficult rut to pick the stickbow up, but look, last night and this morning I got to full draw on a couple of bucks. Very close to making it happen. I mean, I'm talking like an extra couple of meters here and there with them walking or whatever. I might have been able to get it done. I've never hunted this hard in my life. But it's good.